Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the City of Escondido Transportation Community Safety Commission meeting for today, April 10th, 2025. Beautiful day. First, I'd like to start with the roll call. And first, I'll just say myself, Lori Hatley, I am here, I'm present, and Commissioner Castlebaum.
Present.
Great. And Commissioner Gurney.
Present.
And Commissioner Grothin. And Commissioner Grakowski. And Commissioner Linda.
Present.
And Commissioner Spoon-Moore.
Here.
Great. Okay. All right. At this point, I'd like to open up to see if there's anybody here that came especially for this meeting that has something they'd like to state. This is the open period for oral communications. I think normally you have to alert us in advance. Do we have anybody that has stated they're here for that?
None.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Then at this point in the package in front of us, we have the minutes from our last meeting in January. And if we've had a chance to look at them, I would appreciate a motion to approve those minutes. And we'll have to do that manually.
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, in a second?
Second.
Okay, great. And all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then, see, I noticed
So approved
the
5-0.
flag salute isn't on this agenda for us, so why don't we just go ahead and add that in? If everybody would please stand for the flag salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thanks for catching that, Lori.
Sorry?
Thanks for catching that.
That's a highlight of my day. Okay, so we approved them. Okay, now we're up to our items. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of engineering and traffic surveys for posted speeds on various street segments citywide, and to forward recommendations to the City Council upon our approval. So is that Mr. Williams that has that, or who has the?
Thank you. We're going to have Rob
Okay.
Blau make this presentation.
Perfect, thank you.
Let's see, do I need to turn this on here?
Yes.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Again, my name's Rob Blau. I'm with STC Traffic, and we are assisting the city with traffic engineering on-call services. This item is similar to the last meeting where we certified new speed surveys. The city had 7 new speed surveys that needed to be certified due to time restrictions, the dates and so forth. And in addition, there are, I believe when we looked, there's possibly about 50 more that need to go to the city this year. So the city will be bringing those back probably at the next meeting. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So on these 7 speed surveys, they are just random segments throughout the city because of the date restriction. These speed surveys, according to California Vehicle Code, they need to be updated every 7 to 14 years, depending on certain situations. This ensures that the police department can enforce the speeds with radar and that they'll uphold the tickets. If the speed surveys aren't current, somebody could challenge the speed survey not meeting their criteria. So it's important the city get these to the courts regularly. There's a little more detail on how the speed surveys are calculated. I'll just basically go through a little quick summary. And in the report, each segment has its own sheet, so you can look at all the data that was obtained for that. But basically, we go out there, measure the speed, minimum sample of 100 vehicles. We look for the 85th percentile, which is where the top 85 out of 100 vehicles are traveling. That's generally in the past where the speed limits have been set. They've been determined through previous studies over many years that that's generally the safest speed to have everybody travel at, because you want people traveling kind of in a similar range. So we look at the speeds. We also look at the accident history. We go back and see if there's any unusual conditions that would require downward speed zoning. Look at the residential density, pedestrian and bicycle safety, and also look at where the schools are and any safety issues. The criteria is there's something in there in the vehicle code about rounding. So when you for example, do a speed survey, you'll see that the 85th percentile might be 37 miles per hour. So it gets into the little technical part where you round down to 35. If it's 38, you round up to 40. However, there's in recent years, they've kind of been a little less conservative, let's say, on how the speed surveys are set. So it does allow cities to retain an existing speed limit if that speed limit was conducted by a speed survey and no additional lanes have been added. So a lot of cities are using that rather than raising their speeds, from 40 to 45 or 50, because of the 85th percentile rule. They'll use the justification that there hasn't been any additional lanes. It was previously posted at this speed. And we have that, I think, for one segment here. All the other ones, as you can see here on the table, they're all going to remain as they are posted. So there shouldn't be any controversial issues unless the speed limit wanted to be reduced even further. So shown here are the 7 speed limits. It shows the existing posted limit right here in the first column with the date of the previous survey. Classification of the roadway. The 85th percentile speed that was measured with a radar gun, where it was rounded, and the recommended posted speed limit. So it's good news for the city. Everything can remain as is if that's what you seek. So we're recommending approved staff recommendation by certifying the proposed 7 speed limits and recommending council approve the retaining of the speed limits on the 7 roadway segments. And that concludes the report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, yes, I have a question about what are the speed limits and classification on Broadway segment 2 and segment 1? What I'm seeing is we're a collector road, which is a lesser category than major road. Speeds are higher. We're coming in there at nearly 50 miles an hour on a 40-mile-an-hour road. That's supposed to be 25 when children are present. What can we do to slow it down in segment 2 or something before we get to this? Or I'm looking at that and saying, yeah, I know we're forcing it down, and it's good to force the speed limit down, but it's not effective if they're still doing 49 and it's posted at 40. What can we do to slow them down before they get to that?
Right. Yeah, that one stuck out to me as well. Also, if you look at the speed survey, the details, it's the 50th percentile speed is 43. So that means more than 50% of the cars are going over 43 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Which is
It's
high for a 40 posted speed limit. I agree. We've got the school zone.
It's by the schools. Yeah,
Right.
I recall that location. It's I think it even has a little grade to the road as well, if I remember right. Center, 2-way left turn lane, schools nearby. My experience, one of the best ways to force the speeds down is enforcement. And I know the sergeant isn't here, or the lieutenant isn't here tonight, but in my experience, wherever we would focus enforcement and we would ask the sheriff or the police to kind of target a certain area to try to put it in the driver's mind that you can't just open it up on this street. So I've always felt that enforcement, it's very difficult to do traffic calming or any type of measures on these circulation element roads. I mean, we'll talk about that in the Gamble Street report. But bringing it down, it's Enforcement, I think, would be one of the first tools. Additional signage, if the speed limit signs aren't visible. But what I've found is a lot of people will generally not pay attention to signs, especially if they're familiar with the city. If it's your city, so many times people would tell me I need a speed limit, and I'd tell them there's one already right on your street, and they don't see it. Most people drive at what they feel is safe, and they'll kind of flow with them, but you do get the outliers that are, the 15%, let's say, that are pushing the limit. And that's really where the police try to target them to bring them into compliance. But
Okay, do you know what the speed limit on Broadway segment 2 is? Can we get that? That's not on this list. And I'm wondering, are we bumping up to 50 miles an hour on segment 2 and everyone's just hitting the gas early? Maybe we need to drop that one down as well to, I'm not arguing with the recommendation here. I'm looking at what can we do beyond this. That's where I'm going with this. It's not against this recommendation. I'm fully approving this. I'm just looking beyond this. And what can we do? Because if we've got, when children are present, 25, and people are doing 49, that's a little ridiculous.
yeah, generally the speed surveys, you'll see the date and time they were done. They're usually done off-peak. So you'll likely see maybe some faster driving. Usually when traffic's congested, it tends to slow the cars down, especially around school time. So this is probably maybe the worst case situation where it's open, free-flowing, middle of the day, but I'm not certain. I've always told my commissions, I'm like, I seek the lowest legal speed limit possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the lower vehicles are driven, the less chance of an injury or a fatal accident.
Yeah.
So, that's...
And that segment north of Rincon is also 40. So
Yeah.
we've got 3 segments in a row where they're
That
all
are
40
40,
miles per hour.
But they're already
But they
doing
all have a W.
49.
Right,
So how effective is that other segment?
right.
Future, something that we need to look at, I think we're.
One of the things that we are doing in the active transportation strategy is looking at roads that perhaps have additional capacity. And if those are opportunities to reduce the number of lanes, if we were to do that, particularly on Broadway. And I've looked at the volumes in the past. It's a 4-lane section all the way from North Avenue, all the way past the school, all the way across Country Club, and then all the way down past the high school. But the volumes really don't warrant 4 lanes. So it probably will end up being a candidate to reduce the number of lanes. And I think if we did that, that would reduce the speed as well. But that's something we're working on right now.
And thank you. And it's just, I think, if it's something we keep in mind going forward, it seems to me a potentially dangerous spot.
Actually, Commissioner, I appreciate that comment. So it was good. It was well stated and valuable. Thanks.
Another reason why the speeds could be higher there is its proximity to the high school, because the young people, they drive faster than they should. Probably the majority of the students that go there live south of El Norte Parkway, but still some are going to live, and travel between Rincon and Leslie, and they're going to bring up the speed. I personally know years ago of a high schooler that got a ticket. Actually, they were enforcing it right through there, and they got a ticket for their speed, very high speed through that area. And then north of there, in front of Reedy Creek Elementary, that's known for drag racing. Kids go there and drag race. So, that's all factors, especially with the high school right there. So, any other questions or comments? All right. Do I have a motion to go ahead and approve these speed surveys?
I move to approve the speed surveys.
And a second.
I second.
Thank you. And all in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Approve 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, and now here's a good item. Item number 2, the Gamble Street Traffic Flow Management Study Recommendation. We've had several citizens come in and talk about the speed on, speaking of speed on Gamble, and really appreciate, I've reviewed this, and a lot of work and thoughts already gone into this, so appreciate it. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Blau.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Craig has advised me, and I've been at a few of the commission meetings where the public has come, and I'm actually very familiar with the street as well because a few times my Waze told me to turn there, believe it or not. Traveling east from the 78, wanting to go to the east, it sends me down the street called Gamble where traffic is backed up, there's no turn pocket, so yeah, I've been watching this one for a while. What I thought was, in my experience, would be the best idea is develop a comprehensive solution. And sometimes that requires a little more work in the beginning. Sometimes when you just address one street at a time without looking at the whole, you may unintentionally push traffic to another street and then have those neighbors show up at the meeting going, who's running the show? Why aren't you planning this correctly? That's, in my experience, that's a terrible situation where you just focus on one street. So I put together this, it's my idea of a scope that would address kind of setting up a baseline condition, documenting what the conditions are. Are there problems out there? Are there speeding? How much traffic is on Gamble? Why are they using Gamble? Is it because they just follow Waze? I talked with another person today who I work with, and he lives in Escondido. And I mentioned that I was coming tonight. And he goes, my Waze sends me down Gamble, or his Google. And he goes, I'd much rather take El Norte to Center City Parkway to get on the freeway, but it sends me down Gamble. So apparently the algorithm from those programs, there aren't any signals. You can make a nice quick left and a nice quick right. But when I look at this, we have, let me first show you what Gamble looks like. Gamble, it's just barely 30 feet curb to curb in this section where it's not improved. Now, further up, there's some sections where there's sidewalk, very limited on both sides, 36 feet wide with parking. Craig has told me that they've used these speed signs, these feedback signs as well to try to help it. But sometimes in my experience, when it's commuter traffic versus residential traffic that lives there, you'll find the commuter traffic is the ones that are pushing this, presenting the problem. Because they're going a much further distance than just going to their house and back. And this street, when you look at this right here, I look at it like, these are arteries. They're carrying traffic like your body carries blood, right? And you don't want the traffic to be going through these little residential streets. Currently, it appears Gamble is getting commuter traffic. We want to document that. But there's a couple other streets that are very similar. You have Ivy, similar situation, although they do have a knuckle right at this point. But the person I talked to today says it sends them down Ivy every now and then as well. So anything that's done to Gamble, Ivy could be almost as quick and you come out at a signal. Same with turning left. If anything's done over here at Gamble, the Ivy traffic might shift. And then over here, it's a little less likely. You have Grape Street that turns into Cathy Court. It's a little knuckle here, but they seem to be avoiding the traffic that's backing up from Fig in the peak hour. I think that's generally the PM peak hour. And then in the morning, they tend to use it to make a left as it backs up from Center City Parkway, and depending on when schools are in session as well. So this study, the way I look at it, these are the main streets here that surround it. how do we get the traffic that's commuter traffic to go back to using those streets? So another issue that's come up, and this is more of a safety issue at the intersection of Lincoln and Gamble. This is the cross street of Gamble here. This is Lincoln looking to the west. And if I can zoom in here a little bit, what you'll see is there's currently a raised median, pretty much a 2-foot raised median here that previously looks like it blocked off the other portion of, I think this is Gamble over here. What happens is this does not have a left turn pocket. Cars in the PM, they start backing up, and one car here can back up cars all the way back. And if you observe it, you'll see people, it's like a Indy race where they're in pit row and they're trying to shift over suddenly. A lot of close calls. I looked at the accident history just in this area, pulled up only the injury accidents, and I believe there were 7 injury accidents over I can't remember the year period. I did write it in the study. Sorry if I'm can't find that right now, but there were 12 injury over a 7-year period. Got it backwards. And that doesn't include property damage only, which are fender benders. So those weren't reported in the database of TIMS. So this is something that when we take a closer look at this, does restricting the movements at this intersection similar to how this was done, is that a possible solution if the problem is documented? What we'll also do, if you look in the traffic data collection, let's see, I'll go back here. So you see all these circles and you see these lines. The circles are where we intend to collect PM and AM turning movement counts. So we're going to document how much traffic is there. At the big signals, we'll see how's the signal timing working. Is the signal timing favoring the main road or the cross street? Because there are some tricks that can be done to encourage people to use, say, for example, the left turn at Fig. The signals down on Broadway that are real close together, some people have told me they avoid that because sometimes it gets congested. Can those be coordinated a little better to maybe encourage vehicles to use Broadway? So looking maybe at a solution that looks at trying to improve the flow along the perimeter, as well as looking at things that can be done interior to this neighborhood on Gamble, and maybe we have to look at the other streets if they might get traffic shifted over or not. So part of I think the study would look at solutions, and in the study I just identified a few. Speed humps are commonly used. They've been used for many years. I've probably installed about 50 of them in my career. I can tell you the pros, and there are a lot of cons with them. So it's not a perfect world, but what I've told the neighborhoods is, if your condition is so bad, speed humps might be a good solution. But if it's just marginally bad, you might be more upset with the speed humps because they do generate noise. So wherever they're located, I always would look at windows. Those people are going to complain, and they had to me. They open windows at night in the summer. They hear the noise. They hear trucks, and the bed of trucks, sometimes there's, seems like chains or equipment that just rattle. So it'd be very important. I talk about public participation. Whenever I would do one of these, and I would recommend it to the city, you get the public to buy in, just like we want you to buy in tonight to do this study. And we want your feedback. We want to hear things that we may have not considered to be looked at, because ideally we would invite the public from Gamble Street and maybe the other streets as well on the notification they might, so that a solution can be developed without just one person pushing one idea. You kind of work together as a neighborhood and you buy into it. But knowing that when you look at Gamble, anything that's done to block or restrict a movement to affect commuter traffic also affects the residents. So instead of the commuters having to go around, now you might have residents going around. So speed humps are a pretty good tool. They're not the greatest. You can see here there's a lot of scrape marks here on the street. So people take them at different speeds. There has been something called speed cushions that I used. They're manufactured rubber, and they have slots in them. And one of the issues with speed humps in the past was we would always want the fire department's support. We'd look at it and say, nah, this street's too important for the fire department. We're not going to allow 6 speed humps on this street, because going back early days, Portland did a study on speed humps of various sizes, and also with different fire trucks and ambulances. What I recall from that study was between 5 and 9 seconds of delay for each speed hump. So I had a neighborhood in the city I worked in where to get through the whole traffic calming thing, it was about 10 speed humps. So that could generate over a minute delay to emergency response. And some people that lived on the cul-de-sacs weren't too happy that the speed humps were put on the main roads, because it they're elderly and had heart conditions, and they would talk to me saying, I can't sleep at night because I know they're going to have trouble getting to me in time. So that's something where the fire department is usually involved heavily to make sure that it's not going to critically affect the response. And also, you don't want to put them on streets with too high of a volume, because you have the constant noise, and it just becomes unsettling, I think. So in addition to the speed hump, the speed cushions, there's something called a speed table. These were originally used on higher volume streets. There's a photo here. They're usually incorporated around schools or crosswalks or parks where you have a lot of pedestrian activity, because it physically forces the car to have to slow prior to it, so minimizes the chances of high-speed ped collision. These can be quite expensive to construct because it affects the drainage. You raise it up. This one looks a little bit different because it has a median, but they can be quite costly. But they do work better on heavier traveled streets, especially if you have buses and things like that. So this is in your Escondido toolbox. I think that was adopted a while back. And lastly, this is something that I had. It's a median barrier. This is just like extending the median on Lincoln Parkway or Avenue. Past that point, this restricts it to a right in, right out. This also affects one of the negatives, emergency response, because now the median prevents them from accessing it. So sometimes they have to drive on the opposite side of the median if possible, try to make a U-turn. However, on Lincoln, it's too narrow to make U-turns. So those are like little issues that are not little issues. They're kind of important issues that need to be kind of vetted out through the study process. But these are commonly used as a solution. Here you can see this one. They wanted to provide access for bikes and peds to get through it. So there's a lot of different ways you can design this. So, lastly, public participation, and we want your feedback. So I just kind of gave a brief presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And so our recommendation is to receive the report and provide feedback that will be incorporated into the traffic study. So,
Thank you very much, Mr. Blau. Thank you. Are there any questions or
yeah.
comments? Commissioner Durney has questions.
I'm wondering, how come I didn't see something as a solution, something simple and easy like a stop sign to maybe slow down traffic a little bit? Because to be honest, I mean, I get directed down that road too. Mm-hmm. I'm coming from Valley Center, right down West Valley Parkway. I live off Citricado by Del Lago High School. I just drive straight down Valley Parkway from Valley Center, and I go to my house. I just make a quick left on Citricado. I'm there. No, my car is driving me. My car makes a turn on El Norte, I'm not driving, okay? I'm not even listening to what the car is doing. The car is programmed to do that. It's a Tesla. It's following the map. It takes me over there. It takes me to Gamble. It's doing that because it saves 1 or 2 minutes of time. These things are all programmed to save time, save time, save time. If we can slow down, if we can put a little bit of a time constraint in there, I mean, to be honest, I don't want to go that way. I don't even think about it, but I'm just letting the car do it. I'm just, the car says go that way, it's quicker. So I want to save that extra minute, so I'm going to go and do what the car says. But if we slow it down, I mean, and I think it's great that we do surveys and surveys and surveys, but we've been hearing about this. I've been hearing about traffic on Gamble. I've been coming to this meeting for, I've been like 10 years. Can we do something instead of, let's take a look and let's see how it goes. We put up the little flashing sign that says, hey, yo, you're going too fast. I said, yeah, let's see how fast I can go. Yeah, you're going too fast. I'd rather just do something, maybe in conjunction with doing this, but I think my own personal feeling is if we slow it down just a little bit, put a simple little stop sign there, it'll go better. But my 2 cents.
Do you want to?
No, I was just going to say, I think there's certain rules for when you can put a stop sign in, like it's not for traffic slowing, it's because so much cross-traffic needs to stop for the other traffic to proceed. You can't use a stop sign, I don't think, as a traffic calming device. It has to be because it's necessary for cross-traffic to proceed.
Yes, it's true. However, if you did have a cross street that seemed to be carried a sufficient amount of traffic, in my experience, I've seen where sometimes those, in this case, they're only little tiny cul-de-sacs. What happens when people disrespect the stop sign, they know it's a little cul-de-sac, maybe just a T intersection. Studies have shown that it actually can make the situation worse because you'll find that a lot of drivers are just rolling it or running it entirely. And the worst case scenario is they just didn't expect it on such a street and they don't see the stop sign. So you're almost forced to put flashing lights on the stop sign and flashing warning, because the innocent person out of the side street sees the always stop, they pull up, and they don't, previously they'd look for a gap and make their turn. When there's an always stop, people turn off their mind, just go up, look just right here, make their left, and somebody could be coming through at, 30, 35 miles an hour and T-bone them.
On some roads, yes, but keep in mind that if we do a stop sign there and the algorithm changes, the only people going on that road typically will be the people who live there, instead of people being directed by their computer software.
Yeah.
Also, I do know we've put traffic stop signs in on places like Hamilton Lane, not where there are cross streets, for the purpose of traffic calming, because the people go way too darn fast. So we can do something, and like I said, I've heard about this for a long time. I'd love to see something actually happen. So.
Yeah, I will echo what Commissioner Hatley had mentioned, is that we do refrain from putting in stop signs for traffic calming. And actually, part of the reason you just mentioned is, well, we did it there. Why can't you do it on my street? And the warrants in the manual uniform traffic control devices are there for good reason, and the language in there says stop signs shall not be used for traffic calming. They're for traffic control, assigning right of way. That said, there have been a handful of locations around the city that I'm aware of that has happened. And I will say, too, that the city has been, even though speed humps have been in our traffic management handbook for 10 years, there have been very few instances that the city's ever installed them. There have been changes, I think, Rob mentioned the speed hump designs, or the speed cushion designs that are more friendly toward emergency vehicles than the old style speed humps. And I'll say too that there are so many different designs for speed humps, speed tables, speed cushions. Rob mentioned the study that Portland had done some time ago, and literally there are different versions that, depending on the length of the level part, the center part, they can be tuned toward higher speeds. So, you don't run into the situation that we see, that we all hate in the middle of a shopping center. We've got to slow down to 5 miles an hour. Nobody wants to see those, but you can see them tuned for 10 miles an hour, 15, 20. It's a conversation that we need to pursue with fire. And I think that between a number of other cities that we've both worked in, fire has gone along with certain designs, but it's a conversation we honestly haven't had yet. But this might be a location that kind of prompts us into looking at it. But again, I hate those low speed humps, and I hope that everybody else says the same thing. So it's an opportunity for us to look at a number of different options. Rob hasn't mentioned things like chicanes. They don't make any noise. They slow traffic down. That's another thing that we could look at. So the other thing that we have opportunity to do is not only make some observations on number of counts, we can use this big data that looks at cell phone usage, Bluetooth car movements, and we can see how cars are moving toward there, and even look at a historical perspective. What did Waze do? What did people do before Waze, And actually, we've looked a little bit at how would we get Waze to take this darn street off of their algorithm, and it's not easy to do. You literally have to tell them that it's closed in order for them to route around it. You'd think they'd be a little more friendly to municipalities that are trying to solve problems like this, but it's not an easy situation. So, any other questions, though?
My feedback was actually trying to think ahead for the signal there at Broadway and 78/Lincoln, because I think I'm correct that that's a Caltrans controlled
Yes, it is.
signal, and so just trying to think ahead as we're starting this process to make sure that either start a conversation with Caltrans or reach out to them to see if they are
Right.
willing to, because I know that especially then the Lincoln Avenue at Broadway, the next signal is so close that there's issues there, and so that
I
hopefully
think that's a
in
very-
time when we get there, if we
Yeah.
need changes, we need help with that signal, that they can work with us.
And that's one of the things that we do want to look at. What's the situation with those two signals? Are they coordinated? I can tell you right now they're not. Because one's the city and one's the Caltrans, and there needs to be some talking to each other. The same thing with, Rob and I have talked about FIG. There's a very short left turn lane there because there's also a left turn movement going westbound into that little shopping area around the city property. Are there some things that we can do to the FIG signal to make it easier for traffic to flow through there better? So it's not just people cutting through, they're cutting through for reasons, and that's what we want to understand a little bit better.
Any other questions or comments? I just wanted to state a couple of things. I understand what Commissioner Durney's saying about the stop sign, and then maybe that stop sign would kick that road off the GPS, but we don't know for sure if it would. So we could put a stop sign in there, and GPS could still say, hey, that's a shorter route, and still drive your Tesla through there. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of an unknown. And then,
You don't know until you try.
exactly. And then for the chicanes, I would be interested in looking into the chicanes, but I imagine they'd be pretty costly. I see them being more expensive than the speed bumps or humps.
Well, there are ways to do them that you could put it in temporarily to see how it works.
Okay.
And then you could pull it out. If it works well, then you might put it in a little harder. You know, I've seen them literally with flex posts where they get traffic to slow down. I think there's several streets up in the Vista Oceanside area that has tried them, and actually they work annoyingly well. So.
Okay.
But again, they slow traffic down, but it's not a vertical disturbance.
Exactly. You're not
And
going to hear the chains bouncing in the back of the pickup truck that
right,
hit it too fast or you know, as much squealing unless they went straight through the chicane and hit a curb or something that was there. But,
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, so I'd be actually interested in, especially I like the idea of you saying temporary. You know what I mean? Hey, maybe we could like try something kind of temporary, see if it helps. Of course, that doesn't stop the problem of everybody then switching over to Ivy. You know,
Right.
maybe their traffic will
Right.
probably increase. But I'm also, I don't know if the road is really so narrow through there, but I do like the idea of a center median to prohibit left turns from eastbound Lincoln to northbound Gamble. But I noticed just from the picture, it seems like the lanes are very narrow there. I don't even know, I think they're a little narrower where there's already a barrier in place. I don't know, maybe there's enough room to have a skinny little tiny barrier like that one that's already in place. I feel like the road's even a little narrower right there.
I'd
in
say
front of Gamble.
the one that's there probably isn't more than 2 feet wide.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it could handle like that, I think that would improve the traffic flow from Lincoln with the people that are stopping and making their left turns. It should be done anyways, just because of that. And then people, you know, pulling out, and it's very dangerous if you're in the number one lane and you're, oh, there's no car coming, and then by the time you turn your head back and you pull it out into that lane, oh, there was a car after all, you know, and there's a rear end collision. There's probably a ton of property damage only collisions there, and they're just not recorded. But anyway, so I would definitely be interested in looking for a barrier there, at least to stop that left turn traffic for more than one reason. And then I liked your idea, Mr. Williams, on the higher speed traffic speed tables. I never actually really kind of thought of it that way, that if they're wider, maybe that would be better for like emergency vehicles in the fire department to have one that accommodated, 30 miles an hour or something like that. And, you don't have to slow down to 5 miles per hour to transverse it, but I think you would still get some noise of like, oh no, there's a speed table there with brakes squealing and then a bounce sound, and I know it would probably still generate some noise, but at least at a higher speed it might be a little less. So, anything else? Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for all the work we went into it. So that brings us to item number 3, quarterly report by staff on the progress of various city projects that improve transportation options for residents and travelers within the city. And I assume, Mr. Williams, this will be your presentation.
Yes, it is. This is actually the more fun presentation.
Yes.
It's fun to put it together, and it's fun to give it to you. So, hang on, let us figure out this logistics thing. Okay.
There it is.
Hard to see. Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks for tolerating that. Again, Craig Williams, happy to give this presentation on some progress around the city with various projects. I grouped this into 2 different, I grouped the city projects, and then at the end I added in a couple of development projects simply because they're affecting traffic on our roadways. So, our favorite thing to talk about is Grand Avenue, and I hope everybody's going over there and enjoying the restaurants. I have to say, I had gone over there Sunday night, I think, pick up a pizza to take home, and I was amazed how many people were just walking over to the restaurants and frequenting it. I was really happy to see that. They are making some honestly really amazing progress on that. As you know, they broke it into 3 pieces. They did this piece on the east block first, and then they did the middle, and right now they're doing the section between Maple and Broadway. I kind of circled that in the section that includes the Broadway roundabout all the way down to Maple. And that really will kind of complete this portion of it until they get some additional money, and then there's a little bit extended plan to do Maple Street roundabout. The Calmia traffic circle, actually this was a picture from today, so it's you get a good shot of what the landscaping is looking like. This is a pretty simple traffic circle. We even had to put the no left turn signs, or right turn only signs in the middle of the median. Yeah, the chevrons right in the middle, because the fire trucks need almost all that space in order to make movements around. But it's kind of amazing to see how everybody is adapting to it. People just drive through nice and quiet. You know, they really can't do more than 15 miles an hour through there. And I haven't seen anybody get confused, so that's encouraging to honestly all of us. The outdoor dining area, the fences are all in. This on the left-hand side is Tony Pepperoni. They haven't put their outside tables in. But this is kind of a cool view, because it shows how big an outdoor dining area can be installed, but yet you've got this through walking area, plus parking against the street. And it's a really nicely composed pedestrian space. I've been happy to see the way it's all come together. This picture on the upper left-hand side is Broadway today. Some of the landscaping has been placed in the center. The city is currently doing some outreach on design for a art feature in the absolute center of the roundabout. There was a meeting Tuesday night, and there's one next week on Thursday night to kind of present some options to the public and get their feedback on it. So that's pretty exciting. Cruising Grand starts the first weekend of June, and they expect it to be totally done and open to traffic by early to mid-May. So it's good progress. This is a pretty minor item here, but it's important to a lot of people. We had put in this, we actually replaced 2 ADA parking spots that were in place on Calmia, and then we put those back in for handicap parking. We do have some residents that are pretty interested in having ADA parking throughout the city, so that's we're happy to provide that option for them to be able to visit the downtown area and get around. The developer did install actually, and I've shifted gears a little bit here, this new signal at Valley Parkway and Ivy is actually part of the Palomar Heights project. But it went live about 2 weeks ago. And it seems to be working pretty well. Another city project that is pretty exciting is Smart City. The city had entered into an agreement with a fiber optic installer, Sci-Fi, And they are in the process of putting in fiber optic to literally every house in the city, every residence in the city. And their installation process to me is pretty clever. It's only about this 4-inch slot, and they grind it in about 12 inches deep. This little square here is actually where they punch it under the sidewalk, under the curb and under the sidewalk, and then they put in a box on the back side of the sidewalk for a future connection. We're interested in this because they are also providing fiber optic cable to all city buildings, including parks and water facilities, sewer facilities, as well as our traffic signals. So we're in the process of working out that whole process with them. Yes.
Just real quick, they've actually done my street already.
Well, they have.
They've been up by my house. They did all the digging and everything. I asked them why they were putting the stuff where they were, and part of it was, oh, we're putting it by every lamp post also. So I guess you guys are going to we'll be able to control each light pole even, that they're looking to do that. But, yeah, I see it's a 3-year plan. Now, they've got the fiber in for me already. Any idea when they start turning some of this on, or do we have to wait for the whole city to have fiber before they start turning it on?
Bill, I don't know the answer to that.
It's out there in front of my house, and I'm like, okay.
So is it connected into your house now?
No, not yet, but it's.
Oh, okay. The box is out there.
They've put everything in the street. They've done all the trenching. They've put all the cable in and everything
Okay.
like that. They've gone on under the sidewalk to bring it up to the other side.
Okay.
They've put in a couple of larger boxes this
Right.
big in the ground.
Right.
For controls.
Those
So,
are-
yeah, they're doing a lot there.
And I think you saw in the staff report, they're putting in 3 million linear feet of fiber optics. So pretty big project, pretty impressive. Another project that started, and it's a fairly big project, is this multi-use path, really in the center part of the city, and it's building a kind of a walking path along the north side of the channel, and it's going to have exercise stations and much more pedestrian oriented than the bike facility is on the south side. So it's a nice separation. Not that bikes would be prohibited from the north, but there's a separation there that I think will be really, really good. This is some very early section of construction that's happening right at out by George's Burger, so it's in Broadway and just south of the canal. This is another interesting project too. It was a Caltrans grant to fill in about a half a mile of sidewalk, a sidewalk gap on Valley, just east of Rose, down about to the post office. Really nicely done. We've got landscaping. It's a parkway separated sidewalk, which makes it more friendly for people to walk. And there's even actually some benches. I actually stopped by and looked at it and said, "What are those?" Yeah, and they are benches. So. But I think one of the values of the design is be pretty hard to sleep on, so that's good. Another thing that we were doing literally just last week as we're moving along with the active transportation strategy, we had just done a walk audit to look at opportunities to make it easier for seniors that are visiting the community center at Park Avenue to be able to get around. We've heard that it's difficult to cross Broadway, even though there's a flashing beacon there. They're so far apart, and people have an incredible disrespect for people parking or trying to walk across the street. But we heard from the folks that work there and had some really good exchange with them as far as where folks that frequent that building, where they like to go, and where we might add some other facilities. One of the things that the team is doing right now on CATS is putting together a project list. Some of that project list we'll use to bring back perhaps projects to you to consider for the traffic management priority list. We'll be bringing some projects to you in July for you to kind of explain what those are and then see if you want to move forward with those. A few development projects here. Obviously, we've seen Palomar Heights. Looking back about literally only a little more than a year ago, and then there's another shot in October. The lower right-hand corner was today. It looks pretty darn finished, but as I think I put in the staff report, there are only 17 units that are fully occupied right now. There's about 480 in this complex, and then there are another 90 units that haven't yet started the whole process that are to the left-hand side off to the far left there, a vacant lot there. This is a new signal that was part of the conditions for the villages development. It will be turned on this coming Thursday. So they still haven't done the striping or anything like that. The signal is not turned on. And I added the picture in the lower right-hand side because it really kind of illustrates how difficult sometimes it is to fit a bunch of stuff into an existing sidewalk. So while we had to put the pole behind the curb a certain distance, we also had to kind of punch into the landscape, even though it's city property. It was existing landscape to try to bring a path, an ADA path of travel around it. So it's always a little difficult, or it's sometimes difficult to do these kinds of things. This is a pretty exciting project. If you've gone down Bear Valley Parkway lately, you'll see a whole bunch of homes that are being built on the east side, and that whole project runs from Sunset up to Cholla Canyon, and then there's a new signal there at Zlatibor Ranch Road. It's always hard to say. I can't say that 5 times quickly. So there's a shot of the signal, and it will be turned on next week as well. They've striped out getting ready to stripe each of the lanes, and all the paving has literally just recently been done. You see the shot on the right-hand side of the widening of Bear Valley Parkway all the way from Sunset up to Cholla Canyon. So that's a pretty exciting section to be open, and then also have an easy way to get out of that subdivision as well as get out of the Zlatibor Ranch Road. And finally, I'll end with this. Everybody has a soft spot in their heart for the old Marie Callender's, and this restaurant. You can see the fences up around the outside. They'll be tearing that down in the coming weeks, and it's the site of a future Chick-fil-A. So I hate to end it on a sour note. I know that a lot of people liked that restaurant, but it's got to move forward. So anyway, that's all I had. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Anybody? This is not on the roadway on Bear Valley Parkway, just south of that new development and that Zlatibor signal light. Mm-hmm. It's a little to the east of the roadway. But there's canary palms and Mexican fan palms that have been destroyed probably by that beetle that's going around and destroying the canary palms, and maybe even is now transferring over to the Mexican fan palms. But there's dead palms in there mixed with the oaks that are extremely unsightly and also possibly a fire hazard. I mean, they're very dead. Their toofs are either missing, like it looks like lightning hit them or something, or their toofs are very dead. So, and that might be more like public works. But I drive past there about at least 3 times a week, and I noticed those palms, and I thought, well, maybe they'll take them out, now that they're widening that
Okay.
road there. But, they did a good job saving a lot of oaks, or most of the oaks, but those palms are dead, so.
Okay. All right. We can pass that on to our colleagues at Public Works. So,
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you.
any other questions?
I don't have any talk or ideas that, anything else in the city that the commissioners have? Okay, then I guess we'll wrap it up. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And do we have a second on that? Second. And all in favor of adjournment, raise your hand and say aye, please.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.